Jimmy Johnson is with us. The name of the book is Swagger. He has written it with Dave Hyde. A lot of good stuff in there that I did not know, so I'll cover some of it with you. The book, again, though, is Swagger, Super Bowls, Brass Balls, and Footballs, a memoir. And one of the things that you said in the book, that you were angrier than you've ever been on a plane ride where you threw the computer on the floor, destroyed a computer, and you described it as angrier than you've ever been. And I've seen you plenty angry. So what was happening that made you do that?
Well, we were getting ready to play the New England Patriots in the playoffs. And I knew that, Keith Byars didn't like me a whole lot. And he had gone, we had released him, and one thing or another, he was with the Patriots, and I'd heard filtered back that he had given all the audibles to the Patriots, and it's a playoff game. And so anyway, I'm on the plane. I always, took my little DVD player, and I would replay the television broadcast on the plane going back home. And I looked at this player, and I saw the linebacker, as soon as he started the audible, he's pointing back. And I'm watching him point back, and then he intercepts the thing and goes in for a touchdown. I took that little DVD player and I threw it back. I was just, we lost a playoff game because of it.
Jimmy, when you would watch those game broadcasts on the plane, would you be listening to the broadcasters? Which broadcasters would get you the most fired up?
Oh, I didn't even pay attention to who it was. I listened to it, yes, because so many times the broadcasters, because they have interviewed the coaches, the day before, they'll have little tidbits in there that, look for this. They like to run this type of play, or hey, I think that they've got a tip on the running backs, audible, or the running backs tipping his plays. So a lot of times you'll pick up some information off of those broadcasts.
How soon after that flight did you fire Gary Stevens?
Very soon.
Was it days?
I don't recall. It's been a long time ago, but we did make a change after that.
The reason I asked the question is because I wanted to lead to, what is the most difficult firing that you have had to administer? Because that is not easy, but you could also be professionally cold as part of being good at your job.
Probably the most difficult one is with Jack Del Rio. Jack was an outstanding linebacker for us with the Cowboys. Then he left in the Plan B, and he went to Minnesota. And so when I first came to the Dolphins, Jack was available, and so we signed him to a contract. He's going to be our starting middle linebacker. Now, I'm going to fast forward on this story because Linda, his wife, we went to dinner with Gene Hackman down here in the Keys, and she said, I used to hate you. I said, why is that? And she said, well, we were with the Dolphins, and you, after we played Tampa in the preseason, this is the first year Jack had never even gone through a regular season. And, you had your, Bob Eccles or whoever called Jack, said, Coach Johnson wants to see you. And she said, I asked Jack, said, hey, what's he want to see you right after the game? Is he going to make you captain? And Jack says, no, I don't think Coach makes captains, for the year. He does it on a weekly basis. God, well, why is he going to see you this morning? And Jack said, I don't know. I played pretty good. And so Jack came in my office, and I said, Jack, I know it's only our first preseason game, but I'm going to have to release you. We've got this young linebacker, Zach Thomas, that, hey, I'm not going to be able to keep out of the starting lineup, and I didn't bring you here to be a backup, so I'm going to have to release you. And so obviously his wife was not real happy that she was thinking I was going to make him captain, and instead I released him.
How often in your career, Jimmy, has someone broke down crying because of the news that you're delivering about football, that you have to let them go or you're ending a dream?
There's probably been about a half a dozen times. And then there's been a couple times they wanted to whip my ass too. So I've had it on both ends.
All right, well, give me one of those names, Jimmy. Give me one of the names. Jimmy, come on, Jimmy. Jimmy, one of the names.
Who wanted to fight you?
Did you have to have security in the room, or were you okay?
No. I can't give you the name because they may come back for seconds.
Do you find yourself in many positions as a coach where you're wondering whether you're being cruel, or was that because you push people so hard? Jason Taylor almost quit on you after a couple of practices.
Right.
Do you look back and say, I had to, I know that you had to make certain compromises on this because you were trying to make these guys better, but do you ever look back with regret on something that feels like cruelty now?
Dan, I don't look back and I don't regret. But I'll say one time that I was probably on the edge. We had wrapped up the playoffs when I was with the Cowboys, and we were playing at Washington. And our guys went out there and just flopped around. I mean, they played horrible. And, because it was supposedly a meaningless game. And so we get on the plane to fly back home. And the flight attendant starts pushing the food cart down the deal. I said, no. Put the food cart up and y'all sit down. They don't deserve to eat. And so the players weren't real happy that I didn't give them a meal on the plane. So Wannstedt comes in the office the next day and he said, Coach, weren't you a little bit hard on them? I said, let me tell you something. I don't care if they cuss me, if they hate me. When we lose, I don't want them just to take it in stride. I want them to hurt. I want them to physically be sick to their stomach when we come up short. I don't care if it's a meaningless game or not. Now we win, hey, no holds barred. Y'all do whatever you want to. I'll party with you. But when we lose, you better understand I wasn't real happy we lost.
I hope you find it as funny as I do that as we sell for you swagger, Super Bowls, brass balls, and footballs, a memoir, that you say, I don't look back while selling a memoir. Because
But, I didn't want to do this book. But Nick Kristen, my attorney and good friend, he came and said, you got to tell the story. You got to put your Dallas contract in there. You got to do this. And then Dave Hyde said, hey, all these coaches and general managers and, owners come down and want to talk about evaluating talent. You got to tell that story. So once we started telling the stories, I actually enjoyed it. I enjoyed kind of reliving some of those stories. I guess that's what happens when you get to my age. You got to enjoy some of the good times in the past.
Who is the
I had all my guys here, Aikman and Turner and Wannstedt and Tony Wise, all those guys. And so Rich Dalrymple, he says, hey, I got something here. It's one our greatest moment is when we beat the 49ers in the NFC Championship game, which we knew after that we're going to win the Super Bowl. And I said, guys, boy, we had so much fun that weekend. I said, we were so, focused and grinding. And, as soon as you win the Super Bowl, you get on the road and you start looking at players evaluating talent. I said, we were so obsessed with winning and getting better back then. It's kind of nice to be here and relax and kind of enjoy some of the success that we had.
Who is the coach in the NFL most likely to cannonball off of your boat in the Keys?
Cannonball. Well, he's not in the NFL. Brett Bielema, he probably
perfect
was.
answer.
Not a surprise.
Perfect answer. It's perfect.
I had him on the boat, and plus he weighs about 400 pounds. and I got up in the tower. I said, Brett, you want to come up in the tower with me? He said, at my weight, I don't think so.
Who is the coach most likely to go Heineken for Heineken with Jimmy Johnson?
Okay, that's a ditto on Bielema. And he can hold them too, I promise you that.
Not a surprise.
Did he drink a true or false? He drank Jimmy Johnson under the table.
Well, no. I don't ever go over 5 Heineken Lights. That's the max for me for the day. And I don't drink hard liquor.
Who's killing the most nachos at Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill?
The most nachos? Me.
Yeah.
In fact, I don't even share them.
I also in the book, I should point out to people, I remember reading about this and glancing, but I did not realize that the show Survivor literally saved your life, that you would not be with us right now. You would not be a survivor eating nachos in the Keys right now if you had not. Tell them the story.
Right. Well, first of all, I love the show. And so, nowadays it's all about alliances and stuff. In the early days, they actually lost about 40 pounds and they didn't have any food to eat and all that stuff. Now every other, episode, they're giving them food and, so they don't ever lose anything. But anyway, I love the show. And so I did my little, dog and pony deal. I had Rhonda video me out there on the beach, I'm going to outlast, I'm going to outwork, all this stuff. And we sent the video in. Well, they turned me down. And so I said, okay, they turned me down. But I went through the whole process, and I was in New York, and Les Moonves, who was head of CBS at that time, he was walking down the street. He said, hey, Coach, how are you doing? I said, I'm talking. He said, by the way, I heard Survivor turned you down. I said, yeah. He said, are they crazy? That'd been great for ratings. He said, you still want to be on it? I said, yeah. And he said, okay, let's go through it again. So I went through it again. They flew me to LA. You'll be amazed at all the different tests, aptitude, the IQ test, all the stuff that they put you through to get ready for Survivor. But anyway, they had their Dr. Horowitz, their doctor, put me through a nuclear stress test. And so I went through all this stuff. I'm driving back to the airport. I'm going on the phone with Rhonda. I said, hey, I'm going to go to Africa. I'm going to be on Survivor. So I said, hey, I got another call. It was Dr. Horowitz. He said, Coach, we'd love to have you on Survivor, but you've got one artery 100% blocked, another one 70% blocked. You need to go see your cardiologist. I went to the cardiologist when I got home, right off the bat. He couldn't unblock the 100% blocked one. He put a stent in the 70% blocked. And so then I went on cholesterol medication. I lost 25 pounds. I worked out a little bit better. And after that, got on Survivor the next year.
Do you know, in retrospect, even though you don't look back that much, how close you were to a calamity? Like, was it days, weeks, months when you're talking about that?
Oh, I have no idea. I mean, I just know my heart's pumping right now, and I hope it pumps for another year or two.
Coach, I saw a couple of years ago a shirtless photo of Troy Aikman on your boat during one of those great Cowboys reunions that everybody's jealous and wishes they were a part of. And the very next year, I saw another photo of Troy shirtless again, but the entire crew wearing shirts with Troy's abs on them. Whose idea was that?
Well, actually, we got on the boat. Of course, everybody wants to take their shirt off and everything. And they look over at Troy, and he's got these six-pack abs, He works out like a madman every day. And standing next to him was Nick Kristen, my attorney. Now, Nick's, he's sitting on the chair a lot, And Nick said he had 100 phone calls saying, who is that fat old man next to Troy Aikman?
What a great insult. Nick sits in that chair a lot. One of the stories you tell in the book, and Terry Bradshaw is your best friend. Terry Bradshaw will create some unrest and some chaos on the set there of what you guys are doing by, for example, early on, grabbing James Brown by the privates while he's talking on air and making him squeak. Do you have a better story than that of Terry Bradshaw just being a renegade rebel who doesn't respect anything?
Terry, people will be surprised. He's really a smart guy, especially for the big things. For the little things, he kind of overlooks being on time. He overlooks where his phone is. He loses his phone about once a week. But he is one of the nicest, the most generous individuals you ever want to know. Now, if it's just Terry and I, it's usually a very serious conversation. We might laugh and cut up a little bit, but now as soon as that third person comes, man, it's entertainment. He's on stage and he entertains them.
I can't believe that you are close friends with someone who can't get someplace on time.
It drives me up a wall. In fact, I bought a jet plane, and I actually went on Twitter. I come from a middle-class family, lived in a duplex, et cetera, but I bought a jet plane. I was so proud, so excited how far I've come to own a jet plane. So I put it on Twitter. I said, no more TSA for me. I've got a jet. I had a picture of me with the jet. There was a reply on the Twitter saying, I was thinking about buying a jet, but I bought a sweater instead. And so anyway, I'm so proud about, having this plane. So I pick up Terry a lot of times when we go to LA. And the first time I picked him up, I go there and I'm sitting and I'm sitting, and he's late, and he's late. So he kind of shows up about 10 minutes later. I said, what the hell? I said, I didn't spend $3 million, buying this plane just to wait on your ass. So I didn't speak to him for about 2 hours of the flight. He said, you can't be mad at me long. He said, I won't ever ride with you again if you're not going to talk to me. He said, you can't be mad at me. I'm too nice a guy. So we made amends.
Well, also, he made sure to get on time after that, correct? Wasn't he sleeping on the runway or something? Like, wasn't he?
True story. The next time I went to pick him up, he was laid out on the tarmac with a pillow under his head. He said, I slept here overnight waiting for you. Which he didn't, but he made a big to do about it.
The name of the book is Swagger, Super Bowls, Brass Balls, and Footballs, a memoir. There have been some controversies in recent years on the set that someone is farting loudly. It's happened a couple of times. Someone is gassy on the set. I assume that that's Terry. Am I wrong?
No, we actually saw that on Twitter, and that didn't happen. I don't know if somebody inserted that or whatever, but I've never heard that before.
Fooled by the internet again. Let's play some sound here for Jimmy. This is not covered in the book, but I want to play some sound because I want the backstory on this. I was surprised when I saw you in racing gear, wearing a full racing outfit, doing this commercial as a man who, is careful about who gets to buy his appearances. Let's play the sound.
I'm Jimmy Johnson. No, not the race car driver. I'm the better-looking Jimmy. Since I became the spokesperson for Extends, everywhere I go, guys want to know if Extends really works. Well, it works for me. I started taking Extends before I became their spokesperson. With over 1 billion tablets of Extends taken by men of all ages, I was sold, and you should be too. Extends has been the leader in male enhancement for almost 10 years and can work for men regardless of age. Extends is designed to maximize what you already have. It's not about not being enough, it's about being more. If you can be more by simply taking an Extends tablet daily, why not? So remember, Extends does things only one way, really, really big.
If you call now, we'll send you a week's supply of Extends absolutely free. All you pay for is the postage stamp, and we'll also send you an invitation to have dinner with Jimmy Johnson at an upcoming Extends dinner event. Dinner with Jimmy and a free week supply of Extends, all for the cost of a postage stamp. Call now.
I've got a couple of questions here. One was, how was that?
Let me respond to that. Number one, never had a dinner with anybody. It's amazing what you will read for money. That's the first time I ever heard that.
Bummer about the dinner.
I don't even believe it.
I'm bummed about the dinner.
That was my question.
Because, how do you start conversation?
Comparing notes?
We got this one thing in common.
How does that dinner go? But the dinner does not exist.
I never had dinner with anybody on that thing. And like I said, it's the first time I ever heard that copy. I must not have even been thinking about what it was, but I was just reading the teleprompter.
You've been able to navigate, and we've talked about this before, you have been able to navigate somehow that football didn't make you the family man or the father that you wanted to be, but you've gotten a second chance on that. So can you explain to the audience why it is that every Wednesday you have a 6 a.m. telephone call scheduled with your son, Chad?
Well, Dan, all of a sudden you put it on a serious note. That's what really took me out of coaching. My son, struggled. I was never there for the family growing up. I mean, for them growing up. And then my mother passed away, and I just said, hey, I've had no family life. But my son Chad was battling alcoholism. He lived in Dallas. He didn't even have a car, so he wasn't going to get a DWI or anything like that. And he never even asked for anything, but he just wanted to be left alone. But anyway, he was battling alcoholism. He went through rehab a couple of times. But then all of a sudden, he got sober and started a halfway house and a rehab center, got everything certified, went through all the procedure, and just super, super successful. In fact, he's opening up a second one right outside of Austin, Tranquil Hills. But anyway, this was Tranquil Shores. And he brings me back to the client reunion, all the people that are going through recovery. And I sit there, and I've been there 4 or 5 times. I sit there in the audience with him, and a mother and father will get up to the podium and say, Chad, thanks for saving our son's life. And then a woman would get up and says, Chad, you picked up my daughter at 2 o'clock in the morning, drove her around for 4 hours, and then took her to detox. Thanks for saving her life. And, you know, I'm teared up, you know, and so I have to finish the program. And I go up, I said, listen, I'm part of 2 undefeated national championship teams, won a couple of Super Bowls and a bunch of Hall of Fames, but nothing that I ever accomplished can come close to what you're doing at Tranquil Shores, saving lives. I mean, it's the proudest I am of anything that's ever happened to me is the success that Chad's had.
Why do you think, and I don't know how much time you spend exploring this, I was actually prodding Dave Hyde, and you can be difficult to prod, to keep making you explore why, for example, you had so much trouble simply telling people that you loved them?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe because my role as a head coach had to be somewhat cold and business-like. When you cut a player, you know, we said earlier on, cut their dreams. That was my personality, to be a little bit standoffish and a little bit cold. But like Troy Aikman told me not too awful long ago, he said, man, you were such an a-hole when you coached me. I didn't realize you're really a nice guy. You're really fun to be around.
Have you gotten a lot better at it? Is it still something that gives you discomfort, or are you very easy with the words now?
I'm very easy with it. I love my wife. I love my sons. I love my grandchildren. I love my family, and I love life. I used to say winning those championships the best time of my life, but hey, winning those championships, not even close to what it is right now.
I saw a documentary recently that was very good, Lucy and Desi, and Lucille Ball was asked on television something she had never considered before. How do you define love? How you are somebody who looks back with some disgust at the man you had to be a champion and has found relief afterward. How do you define love?
I think, maybe this is hard to describe, but when you care about somebody so much that you would give your life before theirs.
There aren't a lot of people that you feel that way about, correct? There are some, but there aren't many.
There's a handful, but there's a bunch of them out there I could care less.
There are a great many of those. Swagger is the name of the book. Super Bowls, Brass Balls, and Footballs, a memoir. We're going to play the game it's really traversed the nation. It's very popular. Guess House or Big Chill in a second. But just one last question. There is something in the book. I don't know if you regret it or not, but in the book, you took Herbert over Mahomes. It says if you had to take one pick to start a franchise, it was Herbert over Mahomes. How are you feeling about that?
I'm still pretty close on that. Obviously Mahomes is a great, great player, but I think Herbert, with the right coaching and with the right supporting cast, is also a great, great player. Herbert's bigger, stronger, faster, and got a rocket arm. Hey, let's take a look at it in a couple of years. Mahomes has had a few injuries. At the time that I was asked that, he's on the Fox NFL Sunday set. That's when Mahomes was struggling a little bit. He was injured with the toe, and he was also turning the ball over. And so you look at it, we'll have to say, but they're both great talents.
I have never seen, before we get to Guest House or Big Chill, I have never seen what has happened recently with Josh Allen or Tua Tagovailoa. This is not something that is in my experience watching football, where a guy goes from terrible and inaccurate and Josh Allen to MVP type, and Tua's like, I can't analyze this for 2 years. Then I'm worried about his health, and over the last 6 games, all his numbers are better than everybody. You are seeing what there in your analysis?
Well, Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel's done a great job of surrounding him with talent. Kind of what Troy Aikman told me. We the second year in Dallas, we missed the playoffs by 1 game. He injured his shoulder. And I said, Troy, I tried to get you in the Pro Bowl. I'm sorry I couldn't get you in the Pro Bowl. He said, Coach, you just keep bringing those young players supporting me. He said, I'll go lots of Pro Bowls. And Tua, you bring in Tyreek Hill, you go with Waddle, bring in a couple of running backs, bring in a left tackle. Giving him the right supporting cast. He's got a great touch on the ball. In fact, Bradshaw said last week they said he would have voted him MVP. But you got to have the right supporting cast with any quarterback. And Josh Allen, of course, a big part of his game is him running the football. But he has, the one thing that knock on him coming out of college, he wasn't that accurate, but he's accurate right now. It just takes time.
What do you think about the next 5 years of Dolphins football? Are they about to be as relevant as they have not been since you coached the team?
I think they've got a heck of a shot. The AFC's strong this year, though. And the AFC East is strong this year. I think they'll make a playoff run this year. I think they're good enough to do that. And I don't know about 5 years from now, but I think for the next 2 or 3, they're going to be pretty good.
I guess what I'm asking you is, have they solved their quarterback issues over the last 6 games? Or do they have stability there that they haven't had this century?
Oh, yeah, I think they've solved their quarterback issues. I mean, please, when Terry's going to vote him MVP, as long as he's got the right supporting cast, he can be outstanding. Now, he's got to stay healthy because he's not a big guy. I saw him at the facility when I went and watched him practice against Philadelphia, and he was like in the spa hot tub. He said, Coach, where you been? I've been wanting to meet you. And really, really nice guy. I think he'll be fine as long as he stays healthy.
Who is somebody that Jimmy Johnson met that you were awed that they were that happy to meet you?
I did a deal for a car. It might have been for AutoNation up in Lauderdale. And got on the elevator, and Ray Charles was there, and I said something. He had somebody handling him there, and he said, "I'd recognize that voice." He said, "Jimmy Johnson." I said, "What?" I was so impressed, because he did,
yes,
he just heard my voice, and that kind of took me back.
Are you ready to play the exciting game? I know you've been waiting for it.
Oh, please.
Yes,
I'm gonna put most of them in the chill right now.
All right. Yes. You don't want anybody in the guest house. Let's give him a delayed look at me, Louie, as well, please, for just dropping in casual conversation that he had dinner with Gene Hackman. I know Hackman has stayed in that guest house.
Look at me, Louie.
Yeah, we got to hit Jimmy Johnson with that, even though his life is filled with Gene Hackman just having dinner with him. Barry Switzer has asked to come over to the guest house. Is he getting, we've got some music now. Is he getting guest house or big chill?
Well, actually, Switzer came down every year to my beach house down in Crystal Beach and spent 3 or 4 days. So he's already been there.
Oh, wow.
Now, I'm going to go entertain the troops in Qatar tomorrow. Go there at the Air Force Base in Doha, Qatar. So I won't have anybody in the guest house after tomorrow.
I didn't realize that you and Barry were that kind of friendly after everything.
Oh, yeah, we were okay. We were both assistants at Oklahoma at that time. I've talked to him a time or two since I left the Cowboys, but not a whole lot.
Roger Goodell is calling, and he is asking to stay or to see you. Is he getting the guest house, or does he get a visit at Big Chill?
He gets the guest house, and plus he's making about $20 million a year. I'll probably charge him.
Charge him a little B&B. Stephen Jones wants to see you.
Yeah, Stephen be in the guest house. Stephen and I, Stephen was a young kid. Stephen actually and my son Brent were in the hospital. They were born at the same time in the same hospital. And so Gene and Jerry and actually Linda Kay and I were there in the hospital at the same time when they gave birth. And so Stephen would come to my football camps there at Oklahoma State. So I've watched him grow up.
Tommy Tuberville is calling.
Tommy Tuberville, the senator. Tuberville. Oh, please. He's a senator. I don't care anything about politicians. I'd put him at the Big Chill.
A fine choice by you. Bill Parcells is calling.
Oh, Bill's been down here. Bill's a guest house man.
Emmett Smith.
Oh, Emmett's my guy. You know, the only thing is, I had my boat at the Super Bowl at the first year I left Miami, and Emmett came on the boat. I had a bunch of the cowboy people and everything else. He was wearing these shoes with a black sole. Geez, it cost me $400 to get somebody to clean up all those black streak marks off my boat. But anyway, yeah, he'd be a guest house man.
Al Golden.
Al's been down here a couple of times. He actually knew somebody that had a house here in the Keys, and so he didn't need the guest house.
That doesn't really answer my question, though.
Sounds like Big Chill.
Yeah.
Vinny Testaverde.
Vinny's one of my guys. Yeah, I'd stick him in the guest house.
You can't. You know what? I object to your answer there. You can't forgive him for all those interceptions.
That was my fault for playing him because he had missed all that practice time. He got in the motor scooter accident. He went to the Walter camp. He missed practice time, so it was my fault. That he was out there unprepared.
Joe Buck.
Joe Buck's been here. I remember pulling him on a little sled behind the boat. I think he stayed in the guest house.
How many people have you pulled on a sled behind the boat? Who's the funniest visual image?
Bielema.
You don't argue with that question. Yeah. I promise you, he's pushing 400 pounds.
All right. Jimmy, good talking to you. We will tell them again. The new book, Swagger, Super Bowls, Brass Balls, and Footballs, a memoir. Thank you, sir. It's always good catching up with you. Appreciate seeing your smiling face. Happy in semi-retirement.
Well, Dave Hyde and I will be at the Miami Book Fair next Thursday, 8 o'clock. We'll answer a lot of questions.
All right. Good talking to you, Jimmy. See if we can sneak you over here to the studio. Sit in with us if you want to sell some more books.
No, that's like a Big Chill or guest house. I won't be there.
All right. You could have pretended like you did in the Extends commercial, but but I
We'll also not have dinner with you.
If you paid me the same amount of money that Extends paid, I would be in that studio.
See you later, Jimmy.
All right, see you guys.
One of my favorite things around here is when the group is just talking and everyone realizes like 90 seconds in, oh, we're on to something here. We're on now. And everybody like sort of snaps to attention on we've started.
And that doesn't happen with Stugotz on Zoom so much?
Yeah, Stugotz can Stugotz.
Where is he today?
We've got
on Zoom.
Yeah. Yeah. We
Just not in
his
the
house.
Zoom.
His house is north, so there was some worry about flooding.
The option was given to work from home. That's what happened.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you kind of set me up for that a little bit. You were like, what a lazy piece of shit he is. And I was like, well, where is he? Is he doing it from home? You're like, well, there's a tropical storm and his house might flood. That's a little unfair of you to
well, but I don't actually think that I think he's totally fine that the option was given to work from home and you don't give him that option.
Well, I made my top 5 list if you want to hear it.
We started 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, we were on to something, so we've been rolling.
Fine.
You go ahead, and he called me or he texted me last night. I have a top 5 list of celebrity encounters, and we wanted it yesterday. And like all good comedians who know great timing, 24 hours later, he emerges with his top 5 list of top 5 celebrity encounters, as opposed to giving it to us that moment when we needed it.
Well, here's the thing, man. You know, in the moment, I was like, this is tacky. Like, I'm not going to trade on my career and give you what you want, which is like stories about me having dinner with famous people. I'm not going to do that to my
There's
friends.
a code in Hollywood.
There's
You
a
don't
code,
want to.
yeah. But there's also like a human decency code where it's like I'm not gonna use my personal relationships with people for content for your podcast.
Just to gauge it though, hold on. Just to gauge it real fast. If you're putting on a list every celebrity drinks / dinner you've ever been on, where does Witty, Tony, and I rank in that? Because we like during the Super Bowl back in February, we met up with you for drinks. That has to be top 100.
It's top like 2,500 probably.
Dan found out this Hollywood code the hard way with Matt Damon.
Oh, did you betray a trust?
Yeah, I just told some story of being at his house and Bruce Willis yelling about his bets into the phone and then never heard from Matt Damon again.
Yeah, of course you never heard from Matt Damon again when you did that. That's the point. So I said no. However, I also want to be a good Meadowlark Media content provider. I want to help you out and give good content. I did feel a little bit like a bad improvisational comedian who was saying no to every suggestion that you were throwing out there. So last night I was like, I bet I could do this with top 5 celebrity encounters that have nothing to do with my job or my personal friendships, that are just times that I've seen an interesting celebrity in some interesting context. So that's what I've done. So this is top 5 celebrity encounters that have nothing to do with my career or my friendships.
Okay, but you have probably 5 better than this. This is a diluted version, and I just want you to understand, in this trade of us paying you to make daily content for us, I want you to understand that what isn't diluted is the amount of hatred that we are getting for allowing a Hollywood liberal elite a political voice during this time when people are fed up with our Hollywood friends giving their political opinions about things. That the hatred that comes back our way.
So bad. Oh no. Oh gosh. Are people upset that their anti-democracy election denying bug people weren't elected to public office? That makes me feel so sad.
I understand that you don't care about this. I just want to understand the burden, the crucifix that you are to us because our affiliation with your Hollywood elitism.
You asked me to do this, and all the money you pay me, I give to Ron
Number
McGill
5. Number 5.
I have another question. Do I need to lay down my Look at Me Louie sword for this? Or
No.
No?
That's part of this is I am saying I am open. You're going to want to get the white guys thing ready too, I would say. But you're fine. Look at Me, Louie, fine. White guys, fine. Anything you want, fine. This is fair game because I'm trying to be a good # content provider for Meadowlark.
Number 5, Mike Schur, what happened?
I have an OLI first.
Okay, I'm sorry. My bad.
I have an OLI.
My bad.
OLI, celebrity interaction, had nothing to do with my job or career or anything else. 1999, walking on 5th Avenue in New York, I saw Oprah and Stedman walking down the street.
That is outside looking in. It is not good enough to crack the top 5. Did you say anything? Did you say something to somebody who was with you and say that was Oprah and Stedman?
I was with someone, I don't remember who now, and I was like, I think that's Oprah and Stedman. I was behind them, and then a garbage truck came the other way, going south on 5th Avenue, and stopped, and this huge New York City garbage man was like, Oprah, I love you, I love the show, and she like waved. She had a bunch of shopping bags. I think they were like Christmas shopping or something. But,
when was the last time you shouted at a celebrity? Like, Will Ferrell, love your movie.
From the window of my garbage truck. All right, that's number 5. Number 5. So 20 years ago, I was at LAX and I saw a man I believe to be James Earl Jones in the baggage claim at LAX. And I was pretty sure it was him. He was kind of far away. I didn't know for sure. And then a bag came out and I heard Darth Vader say, "It's the one with the broken wheel." And I was like, that's definitely James Earl Jones.
It's a strong list right there.
Terrible limited fake.
It was terrible, but Darth Vader having luggage with a broken wheel and learning it from his voice is pretty great.
Can anybody do a James Earl Jones? That's got to be one of the more difficult limited fakes.
I thought it was a good limited fake. All right, number 4. 13 years old in a grocery store in Westport, Connecticut. I was just getting into comedy and I saw David Letterman grocery shopping.
What aisle?
I don't remember, but I was walking, I saw him, I was like, that's David Letterman. And I just followed him around the aisles, like pretending to shop just to like keep looking at him. And he immediately saw me and understood that I was tailing him. And he looked at me and was like, how you doing? And it was like the greatest moment of my life. Like I still remember his like smile and his gap tooth.
When you say
like,
getting
saying,
into comedy, do you mean that you were starting to work in comedy or you started to appreciate comedy?
I was at SNL at the time. Yeah.
He was a 13-year-old writer for
Prodigy.
Saturday Night Live.
Yeah. No, I was starting to discover like Monty Python and David Letterman and people like that. And like it was the summer and I would stay up super late and watch Carson and Letterman and tape Letterman and then like watch it over and over again. So he was the biggest celebrity in the world to me at the time.
We've all done that thing at a grocery store where you see someone and you follow them around, act like you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. I did that one. I did it once with Rajah Bell.
All right, number three.
Number 3.
So Peter Gammons, here's where you'll want to get the white guy sounder ready. So Peter Gammons does the thing in Boston called Hot Stove Cool Music, which is like a music / athletes like fundraiser thing in January. So it's January 2004. I go to Hot Stove Cool Music in Boston. And first of all, I met Kay Hanley, of the lead singer of Letters to Cleo, which was a huge celebrity crush of mine. That was amazing. That deserves a white guy. I would go white guys on that one, but look at me, Louis, fine. So this is January 2004. So the Aaron Boone home run has happened a couple months earlier. And they've hired Francona and they've got Keith Folk and they got Schilling and like expectations are super high. So the energy in the room is like, we're all vibrating at a very high frequency. A bunch of Red Sox are there. I'm talking to Kevin Millar and Bronson Arroyo comes up and is like, hey man, I'm going to play Black by Pearl Jam. Do you want to sing it with me? And Millar is like, hell yeah, dude. So Peter Gammons gets on stage and he says, okay, now here to play Black by Pearl Jam is Bronson Arroyo and Kevin Millar. The crowd goes crazy. Millar is about to walk on stage. He turns around, looks right at me and says, I don't know one single fucking word to this song. And then jumps on the stage and raises his arms in triumph and points to the crowd. And I looked at my friend that I was there with and I was like, the Red Sox are going to win the World Series because that guy has so much unearned confidence that he's going to carry them to the World Series. And I was totally right.
Wasn't he like a Rule 5 player? Where does that confidence come from?
No idea. He was on his way to Japan when Theo Epstein broke an unwritten rule and beat the contract that he had signed to play in Japan, which you weren't supposed to do, but brought him back and he got the walk that led to Dave Roberts pinch running, which then led to the stolen base in Game 4 of the ALCS.
What did he do on stage? Did he just get up there and dance without knowing any of the songs?
He just did this. He just rocked. He just gritted his teeth as Bronson Arroyo very flawlessly played the song Black by Pearl Jam. And Millar just pumped his fist and pointed to the crowd and didn't have any. Yeah.
Also, with Pearl Jam music, you just sort of grumble and grunt.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
Number 2, are we on number 2?
Number 2, spring 1993. My high school drama club heads to New York to see a Broadway play. We're having a discussion. Are we going to see any famous people? That was the big question. Are we going to see any celebrities? We're driving down Broadway on the Upper West Side. I look out the window and I scream to everyone in the bus, that's Regis Philbin, because Regis Philbin was walking down the street. And we all ran to the windows and pounded on the windows and went, Regis, Regis. And he looked over at us and waved and went hi, how you doing? And we went crazy and talked about it every day for the rest of the year. And then 12 years later, I married his daughter.
It is an amazing story that he would become your father-in-law. That's crazy.
Isn't that wild? Yeah, it was amazing.
And did you have some of those experiences the first few times you were around him while dating his daughter?
You mean experiences of I can't believe that I'm seeing him on the street. What are you talking about?
Yeah, just seeing him in my life. That you would.
Is he ever not Regis Philbin?
No, he was always Regis Philbin. No, I did, although I mostly had them through the eyes of other people. Like we would be out to dinner, and then I would see someone else have that experience of seeing him and their eyes getting wide and their brain fritzing out and going, oh my God, I can't believe that's Regis Philbin. And then he was like, I may have told you this once, Dan, but we were at one of my lasting memories is we were driving into the city from they had a house in Southern Connecticut, and we were driving back into the city, and he stopped for gas and he got out, and this elderly lady came over and was just like, Regis, hi. And he was like, hi, how are you? Because that's what he always did. And she just said, like, it's so great to see you. You know, I was thinking about you the other day because my grandson wants to go to Notre Dame. And he was like, oh yeah. And she was like, yeah. And I don't think he should go, frankly. I think he should stay closer to home. I really want him to go to college in Vermont or whatever. And they just talked for like 8 minutes as he was filling his car up with gas. And we got back in the car and I said, who was that lady? And he goes, I don't know. And I was like, wait, you didn't know her? And he was like, no, I've never seen her before in my life. And I realized that this was early on in my relationship with JJ, his daughter. And I realized that people, when they see him, they just talk to him like they're best friends. Like that, it's not a like, oh my God, can I have your autograph kind of thing. They are so used to hearing him talk about his life that they just start talking about their lives, and they act. And from the outside, it was seriously felt like, oh, this is like some person he knows from the neighborhood who he's known for 20 years, because she was just very casually talking about her grandson and what she had for dinner or whatever. That was what was so weird about his particular celebrity, was that it was based on this incredible daily intimacy of him coming into people's lives every single day. And it made people act like he was just like their next door neighbor.
As opposed to Dan's celebrity, where people just go up to him and just talk about sports for about 20 minutes.
No, you know what? It's funny because obviously it's not anything like Regis Philbin, who I believe is the Guinness World Record holder for most hours spent on television. But it is a running joke with Brenna, my brother's girlfriend, where she will say to me, who was that person? Did you know that person? I'm like, no, I have no idea who that was.
Same thing, just like ask you about the Dolphins or whatever?
No, well, just about anything, because we're daily too in the intimacy in their head, and so they come up and start a conversation. But now I do it to her with people I actually know that I'm having hugely intimate conversations with, where I'm like, don't have any idea who that was, even though we're talking about deeply personal things. Number one, Mike Schur.
All right, number one celebrity interaction of all time, and there's not a close second. Spring 2004. New York City. I'm at a party. I look across the room, and who do I see? New England Patriots special teams ace Larry Izzo. Life-changing.
It's so lame. Let's do stat of the day here. Let's do stat of the day with Mike Schur. We've got, do you have a good one today? You're feeling good about today's?
It's funny. I don't know how to judge whether these things are good
it doesn't
or not.
sound so. It sounds like Cody's answer.
Start of the day. It is the start of the day. Start of the day. Start of the day. It is the start of the day. Start of the day. Start of the day. It is the start of the day. Start of the day. Start of the day. It is the start of the day.
The Lakers stink. They stink at basketball. They're very bad at basketball. One thing that makes for a good watch right now, if you're interested in watching bad basketball, is that Russell Westbrook is only 20 turnovers shy of John Stockton's all-time record for most turnovers by a point guard. Stockton had 4,244 after his 4 turnovers last night. Westbrook has 4,224. The difference is that Stockton played in 500 more games than Russell Westbrook did. And, by the way, LeBron is number one all-time for any position in turnovers with 4,819. So when the Lakers have LeBron and Russ on the court at the same time. That's more than 9,000 career turnovers from 2 guys.
We need to start stopping the games when they break these records.
I agree.
Earlier in today's show, Roy and Chris Cody interviewed the former Florida Panthers goaltender Roberto Luongo, and Chris Cody asked him, "You're second all-time in saves. Did you not want to come back and become first all-time in saves?" And Luongo said, "I was also very close to becoming first all-time in goals allowed, so I'd rather not be first all-time in goals allowed than be first all-time in saves made."
I mean, LeBron is going to be first all-time in points and turnovers. That's something, you know?
Compiler.
Mike, good talking to you. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.
All right.
I afford you election day. Just as I hope the audience affords me U.S. men's national team roster selection talk, because it was without controversy. It was certainly with controversy, Witty, and look, this I think this goes down to whether or not you're willing to give Greg Berhalter the benefit of the doubt, or have been able to, or if that ship has sailed with you. You know, with me, it
You
has.
hate this guy.
Hate is very strong.
You have been complaining about him as the head of this, as the decision maker on this for months now.
I'm not a fan of his. Yeah, I'm not a fan of his tactics. I've interviewed him on Chelsea Mic'd Up, and I kind of told him as much. I'd like the U.S. to be counterattacking. For me, the base level that a manager has to clear is you have to trust them with the selection of talent, and this is one of the more talented pools that the U.S. has ever had to select from, and the one that I know that there's other things that you could read into on this roster, but I'm going to make it about one person individually because I think it's an avatar for a lot of different causes. And the player that I want to talk about is Ricardo Pepi, who was very promising, made a debut in a U.S. shirt, contributed to, I think, 6 goals across the boards during qualifying, scored 3 of them, hasn't really been given the opportunity because admittedly he really struggled when he initially made his transfer over to Germany. At the behest of some U.S. management types, including Greg Berhalter, that said, yes, you're tearing up MLS, go over to Europe. He made a disastrous move to Germany. Since then, got loaned out to the Dutch league, has been on fire over the last 8 matches over there. This is a player that decided to pick the United States over Mexico. All right, so you have ramifications to this, and I know you think that those are overstated, Witty, but I think stuff like this matters with this manager, who I don't think is going to be here very long anyways, so maybe that's how you navigate it. When you push a player to pick the U.S. over Mexico, you give him more opportunity. That's just the cost of doing business. And on top of that, Pepi has been good. He's been good when he's donned that shirt. He has been good lately. There are players on this roster that have not been good lately. There are players on this roster that have been really good lately and also went through a dry spell at the exact same time as Ricardo Pepi, yet they were given the opportunity. Hell, Ricardo Pepi's replacement at FC Dallas and MLS has made this roster. Greg Berhalter pushed Pepi over to Europe, and then he takes his replacement over at U.S., so there's all sorts of hypocrisies without taking what I think is the future for this country at the striker position. I understand that there are arguments against him. Please, Witty, take me inside Greg Berhalter's logic here.
I actually, my feeling is that I'm sort of sad by the whole striker situation because no one has actually taken that position. And we complained for years about Josie Altidore leading the line for the U.S. You'd kind of kill for a Josie Altidore right now.
Are you kidding me?
Seriously,
that's where we are.
Seriously, like the level that U.S. strikers have played in this team, it's not for a lack of talent around them. For whatever reason, the game just doesn't find the U.S. striker.
That name with U.S. disappointment, like wanting, hoping, thinking that was a person who would bring offense, goals, enthusiasm. That I mean, he's not Landon Donovan, but I associate that name with a time of great hope.
He was actually better on the international level than he was for his clubs. Although he had some success in spots for Toronto FC, he played a style that was desired by the manager. Hold up play. It's when a striker clogs up some space, can keep possession, can distribute to other players. And that's why certain players, there's a striker on this roster whose sole job is to basically
be 6'3",
be that.
Haji Wright.
What is the mistrust that Greg Berhalter has for Ricardo Pepi?
He was slow to pick him in the team in the first place. I remember in that first window in September of qualifying, it took him 3 games until he finally put him in a game, and then he scored 2 goals out of halftime. It might have saved Greg Berhalter's job, given how poorly World Cup qualifying started.
Not repaid. Not
right.
repaid. That favor not repaid.
And then scored in the next game against Jamaica, but then failed to score in his next 10 U.S. appearances. You mentioned the move to Germany. It kind of seemed like he was out of his depth over there. And this is a player who is only 19 years old right now. He burst onto the U.S. scene at 18 years old. And so I think you're making a decision about the here and now. Josh Sargent's in better form. He has more experience playing in Europe and in England. You're picking a player in Haji Wright who's been in Europe for several years and has been successful. Jesus Ferreira's had a couple good seasons now for FC Dallas. But I think you're basically saying this player is not ready for this stage yet. And he hasn't developed and he hasn't kicked on. I think the most compelling argument that you made was this is the future of the position. Again, he's 19. He's already played well. He got a $20 million move to Germany. That was a disaster, but that he is rated as one of the best prospects in the world. I think
you can also give Pepi some credit and the benefit of the doubt in that was just a bad move that he made, because he is producing every shirt he's worn except for that German shirt that he donned. Now he's delivering, and while he wasn't scoring for the U.S., he was a contributor to goals. I just don't see it. You mentioned Josh Sargent. He was an afterthought for the U.S. men's national team because he struggled so much. On form right now, over the last 8 matches, there is not a more on-form striker option than Ricardo Pepi. I don't get it. And when you get into these international waters, and as demographics continue to change in this country, and you have more of those players that are highly skilled making the decision, do I play for the U.S.? Do I play for Mexico? They're going to remember instances like this. Do I make that move to Germany? Do I make that move to Europe because my manager wants me to? Do I do that? Because what is the reward? The reward, these players work so long. I know you mentioned he's 19. It was in this country that 19 was a young pup. Right now, you're hitting your stride at that age, especially this young core of players. You're going to have that as data if you're trying to make a decision.
I know that Meadowlark Media's first documentary is coming out on Amazon Prime here at the end of November. It's tied to the World Cup. It's the U.S.-Mexico rivalry. And I know when we were discussing some of the things that we were going to make around that film, there was another documentary next to it that was going to follow a player like Pepi through the decision of, do I choose Mexico or America as part of my allegiances? What is owed to him because he chose America? You're suggesting something is owed to him because he chose America over Mexico.
I'm saying it's part of those intangibles that you apply towards your decision-making right now. I understand Greg Berhalter does not owe Ricardo Pepi anything for that decision. I'm looking at this in a macro sense. I'm looking for the next Ricardo Pepi. When the next Ricardo Pepi comes around, is he going to learn from what might be perceived as a mistake right now by Ricardo Pepi? And forget just the Mexico-U.S. declaration. What about the fact that Greg Berhalter is not here? Were not for him getting to Ricardo Pepi all too late, in my opinion. Ricardo Pepi saved this man's job. I just think that there are intangibles here that you should apply to the decision-making, and you could always poke a hole in the logic. Well, he wasn't really scoring for a while. Jordan Morris is on this team. I know exactly what he is. Or do you just feel like you can depend on him? And every argument that you can make against having Ricardo Pepi in that shirt can be totally undone for Josh Sargent. What is the difference between these two players?
Not trusting a 19-year-old, though, right?
It's just personal preference. That's really what it is. It's the manager has looked at the two players, he scouted them and says, I want Josh Sargent. But yesterday they did the release special. He does a whole long interview and says, I didn't take this player for this reason. I honestly find all of it to be nonsense. It's the coach. What I says goes. I picked a player. I think Sargent's better than Pepe, and he's going to live or die on that
Are
decision.
you higher than Mike on coach? Because Mike has been complaining about this man's decision-making process for a long time.
It just comes down to styles. Like Witty's always wanted to, I don't mean to speak for you. I always want a more organized team that's counterattacking because I think that plays into the type of speed that we have, the athletes that we have. I want a more structurally sound thing because you have these players for fewer days in your camp, and I think those teams have success. Witty wants to go into a game against Haiti and dominate. I get that, but he's not doing that, Chris.
Yeah, I think they're not. They're a transition. They're a high pressing team. They're not even necessarily playing with the ball as much as I would like them to. I think he's done a perfectly adequate job. I think he took over a really difficult program. This is basically an entirely new team from the team that failed to qualify for 2018. There's one player left. And it's DeAndre Yedlin, who probably is not even going to play.
Why are you at adequate? And Mike is like, get this person out of my life. I don't want him making the choices.
I think it's a how are you going to maximize the United States' talent level? You're not Germany, you're not England, you're not Brazil, you're not France, you're not Argentina, you're not the teams that have the most talent. So how are you going to go about winning at the World Cup?
But you were all excited when a predictive model came out with the U.S. getting to a quarterfinal.
Predictive model was a FIFA video game simulation. Out of here with that. We got lucky that this World Cup was so corrupt because this was supposed to be the World Cup that we were going to be in position to make a deep run in, possibly win and arrive as a football nation. Now I'm looking forward to 4 years from now, because thank God we will eventually break ourselves from Greg Berhalter.
You're already there, man.
No, but if I may make excuses, though, this is the youngest team at the World Cup by an average age of 2 years. They are so much younger than you're putting a team together on the fly. You're putting a team together during COVID. You're putting a team together with basically no time on the training ground. He has done so far everything that has been asked of him. Go and win the Gold Cup. Go and qualify for the World Cup. They've beat Mexico three straight times.
What, third in the qualifying?
I mean, by a point.
Hey, it's just not good enough. Yeah, like you're saying it's adequate, and I'm out here saying no. In 2022 was supposed to be about us being further along. Like getting to the World Cup.
When you failed to qualify for the World Cup, you have to completely recalibrate your expectations. When you're playing nothing but 20 and 21-year-olds, you have to the U.S. is relying upon a midfielder, Yunus Musa, who, by the way, they won in a recruiting battle over England and Italy and Ghana, that actually doesn't really play very much for his club. And he's developing. He's 19 years old, but these are all players on their way up. They're not there yet. They will be there in 26. I'm totally fine if you say not good enough when we approach 26, but for this World Cup, I think it's been adequate. I would like for it to be better. There are moments where they play on the road, they play against good opposition, where they have not looked good enough, but I can't necessarily say that it's been bad when there have been major achievements, in my view, along the way.
We didn't talk nearly enough this week about Sepp Blatter. Whenever Sepp Blatter makes an appearance,
that hero.
We love
crawled from underneath that rock he's been hiding under, and he decided to come out with the very obvious statement. Well, maybe Qatar was a mistake.
Really? How nice of him to say this 12 years after the fact.
Not just the corruption, and John Skipper, our CEO, has talked about how corrupt some of this stuff is, but beyond the corruption, slaves dying building stadiums is not something you expect to hear in 2022.
Workers that have their passports taken away. They pay recruitment fees. They pay like $1,200 American dollars, their entire life savings that go into debt so that they can go work in Qatar and then not even have the adequate food or hydration to survive, literally survive.
Thousands of deaths.
All of this has been bad before it's gotten started. We'll see what happens when the games kick off, but every single problem that is originated from just putting this thing in Qatar, from shifting the world calendar to make sure it happens in the winter because it's far too hot there to happen in the summer. Now, very marquee players are not available in this World Cup. It is deeply disheartening. You could count on the World Cup as being a showcase for some of the best players in the world, and you're robbed of that because these players are in the middle of their season. They'll pick up injuries along the way. And now you have the conversation about players protecting their bodies during very important club matches because they don't want to get hurt for the World Cup. It's been a disaster.
Yeah, and that aspect is only magnified because all of the, let's say, the European leagues, that's where the big soccer is played, they're packing more games in between August and November so they can have an appropriate amount of their games played before the World Cup so that when they come back, they can finish their season on schedule. So the biggest teams are playing Saturday, Tuesday, every single week in the run-up to the World Cup. And you've seen so many important players for so many big countries go out, and it's infuriating.
Did that feel good for Sepp Blatter to come out and admit? Was this, wow, such a moral responsibility? This weight is off my shoulders now. I've come clean. We knew it when it was happening. And that's when your words matter. Not these words, when you were in staunch defense of yourself, making a mockery of everything, when people were trying to vote you out because of obvious corruption that was happening that very moment.
Let me tell you, I like you. You brought me again into the FIFA. I stay with you. You have voted for me. Although they have voted for the Prince Ali, I congratulate you. It's a good candidate. But I'm now the president of everybody. So I'm the president of everybody. There is no reticence. That's just president of the whole FIFA. Voila.
He sounds like an evildoer. He did back then, and he was. And lives have been lost for it. We get a lesser World Cup. I feel bad for the people traveling over to Qatar because now that they have geo-tracking apps that can shut down their phone, these fan sites made of shipping containers, they have stadiums made out of shipping containers. It seems like a cheapening of one of the great sports spectacles. And now, just from an enjoyment standpoint, not only do we have a diluted product because there are lesser players on the pitch, but it's also in a super clogged sports calendar. I don't know how, just as a consumer of all of this, we're going to be able to process it. And you feel morally troubled and conflicted by just turning on the TV and watching, but it's a World Cup. You're not going to go away from it.
We're going to do at Moss a watch party, right? Because there's a game at 4 p.m. on December 10th. So you guys are experts in this field. You guys had America's most popular soccer podcast when you were working for Chelsea and they were trying to scrub you down and you were fighting the man, and you are going to do something for us around this morally reprehensible event, correct?
Yeah, we'll be making an announcement shortly, but we'll make sure for all the people out there that don't want us to be talking soccer during the World Cup, you will have an option where you can just kind of bypass our thoughts. As the games are happening during the sports spectacle of our time, we will absolutely classify our thoughts in a nice spot and reunite once again in the name of American soccer coverage.
I hope Stugotz doesn't win again with you guys by just being able to say soccer is dead again and again because he
doesn't even have to pay attention to soccer because he's got Texans-Titans kicking off at the same time.
We've been gas-bagging about the crypto stuff, but we don't know anything other than the fact that what used to be the American Airlines Arena was named for Bitcoin. These guys are laughing already. We'll get to some expertise and follow that laughter in a second. But before we do that, Robert Griffin III, or someone purporting to be Robert Griffin III on Twitter, I'm going to just keep saying it that way as Twitter changes, says lots of tiptoeing around the Jeff Saturday hiring for the Colts. Jeff was a blast to work with at ESPN, but it doesn't change the fact that it's a head-scratching slap in the face to every coach on that staff type of decision. Stephen A. Smith will be coaching the Nets next, is what RG3.
Oh, I love that. What a great idea.
It's a wonderful idea. Put it on the poll, please, Chris Cody. Is it a great idea for Stephen A. Smith to be coaching the Nets?
Wait, was that a report? Because it's totally believable at this point, now that Udoka's out.
It's a report by Robert Griffin III. He's reporting it, or someone purporting to be Robert Griffin III on Twitter is reporting it.
I love that someone went up to Joe Tsai and said, look, it's just too crazy. Just get Jock. Give me some relief. It was just like some PR dude that was just like, I need a minute.
Can I have a normal day, please? One normal day.
I can't do Udoka next. I'm sorry. Just say with Jacques.
But if you think that speaking into a camera is what makes you a good coach, then Stephen A. Smith would be a good coach. And so too, evidently, would Jeff Saturday.
Everybody talks about I'm completely comfortable in who I am as a man, bro. I know I can lead men. I know the game of football and I'm passionate about it. I have no fear about, are you as qualified as somebody else, bro? I spent 14 years in a locker room. I went to playoffs 12 times. I got 5 dudes in the Hall of Fame that I play with. You don't think I've seen greatness? You don't think I've seen how people prepare, how they coach, how they GM, how they work? I mean, won Super Bowls, been to 2, here's the deal, man. None of us are promised a good job. I may be terrible at this. And after 8 games, I'll say, God bless you. I am no good. I may be really good at it. I got no idea, but I dang sure ain't going to back down. I can tell you that.
So PFT said this is the closest thing that we have to Ted Lasso in American sports. And it's true. He even sounds like Ted Lasso, but I want to undo his entire argument because he starts it by saying how comfortable he is in himself as a man. Not if you dye your eyebrows that color, dude.
Is that right? Put it on the poll.
Yeah. He's still got the TV hair and eyebrows. You're not that comfortable with yourself.
Put it on the poll, please, Chris Cody. Are you comfortable with yourself as a man if you dye your eyebrows? Let's bring these two guys in to have some expertise because Miami-Dade County says it will explore all legal remedies if FTX cannot pay its arena naming rights deal per the information. And the crypto exchange signed a 19-year, $135 million deal in March of 2021. And yesterday,
19-year was bold.
That should have been a red flag.
Fortune favors the bold.
And Nick Martell and Jack Crivici-Kramer, they are the hosts of the Best One Yet podcast. They will inform you better than we did yesterday. So let's start with you, Jack. Explain to us what happened here yesterday that nobody could get their money. Nobody could make withdrawals yesterday.
There was a run on FTX, run on a bank basically, but it was a crypto bank. And overall, it took the crypto winter that we had and turned it into a crypto avalanche. Just one of the most devastating sweeps of news and information and falling stock prices we've seen for a sector before. And it's like an avalanche because you got a deluge and then it just picks up steam. It's like a snowball heading down the hill. It gets bigger and bigger. So like exactly what you're talking about, Dan, it starts with one crypto exchange. The next thing we know, it's a bunch of tokens. The next thing we know, other crypto exchange stocks start dropping. And then the next thing, we're wondering who's going to be the new name on an arena in Miami. So we can go back a couple weeks, Dan, if you want, and kind of go through the saga of FTX versus Binance and now FTX potentially going under, if you want us to go back.
Yes, but explain to the layman before that, though, what happened yesterday? What happened to FTX? What happened to the crypto industry?
So it seems like there was a liquidity crisis with FTX. And FTX is the 4th biggest crypto trading platform in the world. It's got FTX US, but it's also got FTX Global, which is based in the Bahamas. And it's run by a 30-year-old who's basically the emperor of the whole company. There's no board of directors. He's not accountable to anyone but himself. He's got a really cushy relationship with DC regulators. This guy was like the king of crypto, outside of Elon Musk and the creator of Bitcoin, maybe. But it's all come crumbling down as there's a lot of rumors and a lot of reports of some shady activities from this guy whose name is Sam Bankman-Fried. Now, there's also like a awkward romantic drama element to this that Jack and I were talking about on our pod, because you really have 2 main characters here. One is Sam Bankman-Fried, who Jack just said is leading FTX. The other was a man who goes by CZ, who leads another huge crypto institution, Binance, the biggest exchange for crypto in the world. And the two were battling it out because Binance had previously invested in Sam's company. Then they discovered through a leak that maybe there were some shady issues with the crypto company FTX. So then they started going through this dramatic Twitter back and forth, hating each other for a few days. But then when we thought they hated each other so much, Binance offered to acquire FTX and save FTX. So the way Jack and I saw it, it was like this strange relationship that went from hating each other to almost a marriage of convenience in 24 hours.
But it collapsed.
Dan, have you seen? It did collapse because the deal fell apart. But Dan, have you seen the movie? The Wedding Got Canceled. It's a Wonderful Life with the Bailey Savings and Loan. Like there's basically a run on FTX. People heard a lot of rumors that FTX was in trouble. So if you have money or cryptocurrencies in an FTX account, you started to get concerned because in the last 6 months, we've heard of a lot of crypto institutions not being able to honor the accounts of their account holders. And people were trying to withdraw money and not being able to do that. So panic started to ensue. $8 billion worth of money tried to get withdrawn from FTX from regular investors who might have some Bitcoin, might have some Ethereum, whatever. And FTX was saying, I'm sorry, get back to us in a day, get back to us in a couple of days. We can't let you withdraw your money right now. And of course, that only escalated the panic. So Binance, a couple days ago on Tuesday, Binance was kind of assuming the Potter role. It was the bigger institution that recognized weakness in a competitor, FTX, and basically said, hey, for pennies on the dollar, we're going to acquire FTX. We're going to become one giant company, number 1 and number 4. This is a great deal. I'm buying this desperate company for a really tiny price, and I'm just going to cement my status as the number 1. So we all went to bed on Tuesday with this huge distraction from the election, which was the number 4 and the number 1 crypto platforms were going to merge. Wednesday, that deal got called off. And so now we're in kind of the second phase, which is panic. And we might have the number 4 crypto institution declaring bankruptcy sometime soon. And anybody who has money in FTX accounts has got to be nervous right now because they might not get it back. And you're nervous if you're in other crypto institutions because you're saying, hey, if the number 4 could go under and there are no protections for these crypto institutions, what could happen if you're at the number 3 biggest?
Seriously, tell me about it. What do I do?
I can tell you all about it. Hi, Voyager subscriber here, Mike Ryan. My money was in Voyager. It still is. Can't get it. FTX was supposed to acquire Voyager. That was the lifeboat. What happens when the lifeboat goes under?
I mean, that sucks, but we're finally realizing.
Thank you. Well said. That sucks. Appreciate
it. Really
it.
sucks, man. It's the worst. We need to think of these crypto platforms as like a crypto bank. You have your money with them in the form of, what is it, Bitcoin?
All over the place, man. I had a token go under while I couldn't get to it. Hearing you guys lament the fall of the industry is quite funny to me because it's been gone for me.
Yeah, well, this is brutal. The savior potentially of the industry here, and this is something that Jack and I have talked about before on our pod around, regulation, the R word, something many crypto fans are concerned about, actually being something that could save the industry potentially, because we used to have boom and bust cycles like this in the stock market with equities.
I thought the whole point was to not be regulated. I thought we don't want regulation.
Well, there's a case to be made for regulation, and this is that kind of case study, right, Jack? This case shows the benefits of the fiat currency, of the US dollar system that we work with. Because you're right, Dan, crypto is supposed to be beyond government's reach, and that's the appeal. But right now, we're realizing that crypto is beyond government's reach, which means it's beyond government's protection. We trust the banks, and no one ever sprints to TD Bank or Charles Schwab or Wells Fargo to withdraw their money because we have no lack of confidence in these institutions. It's the governments that backing them up with the FDIC. All of our deposits are guaranteed. No one makes a run on an American bank since the 1930s when the FDIC got invented during the Great Depression. Also, if a major institution had a run, Congress would probably bail it out. But here's the best part. A major institution wouldn't have a run and wouldn't have the shady financial dealings that we're seeing from FTX because they are heavily regulated. Their books are opened up every day by regulators. And it seems like what happened with FTX was that they took customer money, which was being saved in the piggy bank of FTX, and gave it to one of Sam Bankman-Fried's other companies to invest in risky endeavors. Those risky endeavors in the other company, which came from your money, just totally messed up, seems to have gone south. And now both institutions, Sam Bankman-Fried's like personal hedge fund and FTX, the company that's holding customer accounts, both of them are in jeopardy now. None of those things would have been possible if these crypto institutions had to follow the regulations that U.S. banks do.
Nick, can you explain to us when Sam Bankman-Fried says, he admits, I bleeped up, the exchange was valued at $32 billion. I don't know exactly how much money has been lost in the last couple of days. I don't know his mental state right now as everything collapses. But when he says I bleeped up, what is he saying there? What happened?
What he's saying, and we don't have all the details on this yet, but what it appears is that what he's saying is that he used funds involving tokens like the FTT token, which is part of FTX, and other money that was part of FTX for investments that he personally made or to back up investments he and his own hedge fund had separately made, which gets to the point Jack just said, would not have been allowed in the U.S. banking system. So interestingly, crypto and U.S. banks, they look really similar. The models are really similar. But these guidelines we have in place with regulations in the U.S. banking industry prevent some of these nuances from happening, like commingling of funds is what it's called. So, for example, it appears that Sam Bankman-Fried commingled funds from one of his institutions with his own investments, whereas Jamie Dimon could not do that with JP Morgan Chase. He could not take your savings account from JP Morgan Chase and use that money for him to make a personal investment. That would be commingling. You can't do that in American finance. You can maybe do that to some extent in crypto.
Imagine the head of your local bank, which is the institution holding like your uncle's savings. Imagine the head of that bank who has your uncle's savings, taking your uncle's money and investing it in Dogecoin in his like side cryptocurrency account. That is an exaggerated example of what's happened here. But
yes.
Fundamentally speaking, that seems to be what happened.
Is it just greed? Just greed?
Maybe it's hubris, because for 3 years, people have been telling this guy, Sam Bankman-Fried, you are the oracle of crypto.
They gave him an acronym. Like, we're calling him Sam Bankman-Fried right now, but historically, he's always been called SBF. When you get to the level that your name has been acronymed, that means you're at a different level.
Dan, this guy's got an afro. He wears a T-shirt. He wears sandals. You see his toes on stage. He got to sit on stage next to Giselle and Tom Brady. And like the juxtaposition of the appearance of those two could not be overstated. Meanwhile, he's talking to former President Bill Clinton. He has close relationships with Washington, D.C. politicians. I think for 3 years, people have been telling this guy, you're a god. And so he thought everything he touched would become gold, including those side investments. And now as we have crypto winter with falling prices for 6 straight months, with Bitcoin down 73% from its all-time high, all of his investments are not gold. And he has a liquidity crunch, just like if your investments turn south in your brokerage account.
Hey guys, Chris Cody here, Coinbase. What do I do, Nick? Because I'm scared.
Well, the best thing to do when you're scared, Jack and I always say, is don't do anything. You do
Diamond
not want
hands?
to fight or flight.
Are we still doing diamond hands? Is that still a thing?
Diamond hands worked out great for me with Voyager. I didn't do anything.
We're in more of a hands-up mode situation.
We were playing the game. We were playing the game earlier. Which character in the Titanic are you in relates to the cryptocurrency market? I'm like the old couple laying in the bed, just like riding down with the ship. Who are you guys?
And I've been frozen. I've been frozen in the ice for several months.
Yeah, me and Witty are lying together in the bed. Yeah.
Billy Zane, anyone?
I have a child.
I think SBF is Billy Zane at this point.
Yeah.
In these kind of situations, we always say you really just don't want to necessarily take any action on this. You kind of want to be in the cockpit of the boat and waiting to see what's going to happen with the ship, just in case the lifeboats do actually come. Because, for example, what we've seen in the last couple of days is a whiplash. We've seen crypto drop like 15, 20%. We've also seen it rebound a bit today. So we don't know what the total fallout is. And this kind of gets back to our first part about the avalanche. This thing is snowballed. It's created this whole effect. We don't totally know where this thing lands yet. So it could land with there being some winners. People could rush more into Bitcoin or name brand coins like Ethereum and Bitcoin. So you could have winners emerge. On the other hand, you could have them all continue to suffer.
The nice thing about Coinbase, it is a publicly traded U.S. stock. So it has some regulation from the SEC. It's relatively transparent. It puts out quarterly earnings reports for us all to see. It has a board of directors and it's answerable to investors. FTX had none of that. No accountability whatsoever, except for this 30-year-old guy we keep talking about.
It also appears like we have some breaking news. It appears as though FTX has reopened some withdrawals right now. That's straight from CoinDesk.
Jack, I wanted to ask you, do you think off the back of this that this one individual person, SBF, is full of shit, or is this entire thing full of shit?
I think he used some really complex financial engineering to maybe legally pull off something that a sniff test shows was wrong. And I think there's going to be a bunch of lawsuits, most likely, alleging fraud, is my guess is what's going to happen here. Because, I mean, not allowing a customer to withdraw funds, that's messed up. And that's going to immediately crush confidence in the industry. The damage to crypto is huge from all this.
One thing Jack and I have said is that the most important asset in the entire financial system, whether it's stocks or whether it's crypto, is confidence. And when confidence is lost in institutions, that's when you see serious fallout. So the big question for crypto over the next week is going to be how much confidence is lost in the crypto institutions, because that will be the true assessment of the damage.
Gentlemen, we appreciate your expertise. The name of the podcast, and it's available wherever you get your podcasts. The best one yet. I'm startled that this person's name is so close to Bankman Greed. I can't, you could go Bankman Fried if you will, but Bankman is in the middle of this man's name, and it's just a conjured, he just conjured a thing that put him next to Brady and put him next to Matt Damon, and they bought everything, and all of it looks like it's unraveling today. He feels how right now? What kind of peril is his personal wealth in?
Well, he's probably feeling lucky about one thing. If this had happened 2 weeks ago, he would have been the #1 Halloween costume of the year. Fortunately, it was after Halloween.
That is not fortunate. Like, I don't think that he's blown the entirety of his fortune.
There has been leaked screen caps of very few messages. He's obviously been very hard to reach, saying, yeah, I'm going to be hard to reach for the next few days. And I bleeped up things along those lines. His wealth has gone from proposed billionaire status, though, as someone that's involved in the Voyager Chapter 11 stuff. I can tell you that's not what they told us. They actually muted that wealth to a great deal. He did not position himself as someone that was very wealthy in those proceedings. However, it now appears as his net worth is negative $200 million.
All right, great. Thank you. And then he just says, I fucked up.
Yeah. And again, but I appreciate your expertise in telling me that being a Voyager holder sucks. Yep. It doesn't seem like I've got any way out of this. So confidence is at an all-time low for me.
All right, very good. The best one yet is the name of the podcast. Gentlemen, thank you for the expertise.
Thanks, guys. Fans of the show. Thanks for having us on.
The bucket of death doesn't, because it's led by an agent of chaos, Commissioner Billy Gill, doesn't have people paying their penalties. We're wasting everybody's time with what it is that we're doing here, but we have a legitimate controversy with Greg Cody, because I don't know what the ruling is. He had the golden helmet of life last week and forgot. That gives you 3 free weeks. He then reached into the bucket and chose the Jets, threw it back in horror, and then picked up the Bills. He was delighted. He lost. So what happens?
And so this segment.
what happens?
This segment is that no ramifications from it, no consequences, nothing.
We had a production meeting this week, and we have determined that next Wednesday at noon, we will be holding a Grid of Death draft. So people will actually have to select punishments
that they won't pay off.
No, we will get to doing them. There is an interest in follow through. This time,
there is an interest in follow-through.
I hope.
Next week, we will select things that we might do down the road.
Mark your calendars.
Yeah, we should be embarrassed by all of this.
Should we?
Yes, we should discontinue the segment.
Your effort is certainly appreciated.
It's part of our charm.
Yes.
This is part of our charm. We do jazz hands.
It's not charming.
It's not charming, nor endearing, and I'm bothered by it.
Me too. Roy, you're selecting for Tony.
Jesus. Whoa.
You are selecting for yourself and Tony?
That is correct, sir. I'm going with myself first. You think I was looking? All right, here we go. First helmet is the Jesus Christ. Thank you for your service.
Wow. Literally off air, Roy just said, I don't know those lines, so I hope that helmet doesn't get picked today.
I'm cursed.
The Air Force are 21.5-point favorites at home against New Mexico. That is the best.
That seems like a good bet right there. You don't trust the Air Force?
No, I don't trust Woody.
Really?
He's not lying.
I have betrayed him once before.
Yes, you have.
I have betrayed him once before.
Anyone else mortified by the optics of every time that we thank the military for its service, we do through disgust. Like, we do so through total, like, oh, you mother. I don't want to watch those football games with Army and Navy and Air Force.
You got a 21-point favorite, though. That's a...
Fine, Air Force. All right, Tony.
Air Force won the Commander-in-Chief trophy last week.
Good for them. Good for them. All right, Tony has the Browns.
At the Dolphins.
The Browns are a 4-point dog.
Jeez, okay, I'll put that back then.
That's a small line, huh?
Browns have coming off a bye. Full week to prepare for it.
And edge rush. Edge rush chaos. What do you got there,
Bears.
Roy?
The Chicago Bears. Actually a favorite.
The Bears are 2.5-point favorite against the Lions at home.
All right, there you go.
All right, I'm going with Jessica first. I'm going to pick Jessica. I'm picking for Jessica. I'm going to go with her first. Let's see what we got here. The Bills. That's got to be a good one. 6-point favorite at home against the Vikings. I'll keep that for Jessica.
Okay.
Now I'm going for myself.
Might be Case Keenum at quarterback, but that's for her. That's her problem.
Favorite. It's a 6-point favorite. The Jets. Man, what world are we living in? Oh, on a bye. I was going to say, but what world are we living in that this, I would usually hate this helmet, and I was like, decent.
And the Bills, you took them very quickly against a 7-1 Vikings team.
I mean,
when
you got to go with the favorites here.
Josh Allen's elbow is really messed up, it would appear. Chris Wittyngham, who are you selecting for first?
I will go for myself first, and I'll go for Stu after that. I have the Jacksonville Jaguars.
The Jags are a 9.5-point dog at the Chiefs.
Putting that back.
Sneaky good, that Jags
the
team.
Indianapolis Colts.
Yes, Jeff Saturday. Let's play that wonderful Jeff Saturday is arrogant. He's throwing bros at people.
He works in a bro here. Yeah, it's cool.
He put a bunch of people in the Hall of Fame.
Everybody talks about I'm completely comfortable in who I am as a man, bro. I know I can lead men.
Okay, very good. We're glad that you can lead men. Can you lead quarterback play?
All right, I now have to pick for Stugotz. The Houston Texans.
Woof. They're a 6.5-point dog at the Giants.
Putting it back.
Remember, Stugotz likes a rummage.
Thank you, Chris Cody. Charming.
The Tennessee Titans.
The Titans are a 3-point favorite against the Broncos at home.
Seems like a good one to keep.
Yeah, he upgraded there. Yeah.
Is Tannehill playing?
Yeah, who cares?
Okay, very good.
All right. I'm just picking for me. Yeah.
Yep.
Pittsburgh Steelers.
Man, we are picking crud. They're a 2.5-point dog at home against the Saints.
Yeah, I'm tempted to keep that, but I'm gonna throw it back. See if I can do better than that.
Thank you for articulating your temptations.
Yep.
Only 2 big point spreads this week.
Carolina Panthers.
Jesus.
Shit.
What a bucket of shit. It's just a bucket of feces. What? I don't know who the Panthers are a 3-point dog at home.
That's a lateral move.
Against the Falcons. That is tonight. I got the Chargers. They're at the Niners. They're a 7-point dog. I don't want that. Good God, it's just unending crap. It's the Wizard of Oz helmet. The Bengals are on a bye. I'll take them.
Oh, congratulations.
Hey. And look at the lack of happiness for me. I'm the only one happy with this bucket of shit, this segment of shit.
The only thing that makes me happy is after this, looking at that bucket, I'm going to go eat some KFC because that's delicious.
This has all been brought to you by KFC. Order all your family-style favorites to keep your team fueled all season. That's finger licking good.
Less confident in this than I've ever been.
You're having a good gambling season, though.
I know, but this game's tough. It's Thursday Thunder! Oh, it's a Thursday night game on Prime, and it's Falcons at Panthers.
Why have the games been especially bad this year? I know that since they moved to a streaming platform, these aren't going to get the most glamorous games every week, but it just feels like...
Yeah, they've been poop.
Look at this guy. I mean, I think Colts at... I was about to say Colts at Raiders. Like, I was trying to take like a mid-tier game. Browns at Dolphins?
Because for 2 reasons. It's a set schedule, and because it's a competitive disadvantage to play a game on a short week. Everybody is collectively bargained to just play one once. Although there are some examples of teams playing it twice. If you played week 1, that's not necessarily a short week. And if you played on Thanksgiving, blah, blah, blah. It's all too complicated, but every team has to appear once on Thursday night, which is why 2 birds, 1 stone, Falcons at Panthers. Panthers a 3-point home dog.
Will you actually not watch this?
No, I'm going to watch this. It's
what NFL
There's
game?
2 of my favorite teams in it.
What NFL
2 of my 32
what
favorites.
Game would I have to put on Thursday night where you just say, I'm not watching?
I'm always gonna watch.
Really?
That's the whole deal.
I kind of want to play a game where next week I'll do this maybe, where I'll bring in hypothetical, like all 32 teams. I'll make 16 matchups of just what I imagine to be the worst slate we could possibly have in NFL football. It's hard to do when you're using all the teams, but I'm going to do it.
Here's a way that you can spruce up your Thursday night experience because we're in a group chat that has Thursday Night Firmo. It is a single game showdown daily fantasy competition that we do on DraftKings. And we pick players from this game, and it incentivizes watching Thursday Night Football.
There's always inevitably one tight end that is $1,800 on the DraftKings game that catches a 3-yard touchdown and someone captained them and they win the week. It's infuriating.
Loser double chuggies. Drink responsibly, everybody. What do we got for today's Thursday Thunder?
It is a cross sport Thursday Thunder. We'll begin with our same game parlay for Falcons at Panthers. Mike, you were telling me before we started that the pace of play has been very slow for the Atlanta Falcons this year.
The Atlanta Falcons in first halves are dead last in pace of play, a run-oriented offense, while the Panthers operated at a quicker pace when they had Baker Mayfield at quarterback. They have since slowed down, and they are at 17th in pace, so I expect this to be a fast-moving clock because these teams are on their run game as of late, and it gives us the opportunity for a low point total as I further incentivize you watching a Thursday night game.
First half, under 20.5, first leg of the parlay. And then we saw a report that there will be inclement weather at the Bank of America Stadium, the BOFA Stadium in Charlotte. And so with some rain potentially in the area, the Carolina Panthers to lose a fumble at -115 rounds out our same game parlay.
Slippery pill tonight at BOFA.
And then, because we've been asked to throw in another sport into this, kind of spruce this thing up, watch more than the one game.
My bowling night?
Nope, not your bowling night. It is the Yotes of Arizona at the New York Islanders. We're going New York Islanders money line at -280.
Arizona's on the road. If they were at home, I might not place this bet because
at the 4,700 seat arena.
Yeah, it's actually made for fun television viewing experience.
Somebody sent me a message after we talked about that yesterday and said it's not charming, it's just sad. Once you get
Panthers lost there.
Yep.
Yeah. So again, Islanders home with the Yotes -280, under 20.5 in the first half between the Falcons and the Carolina Panthers, and the Carolina Panthers to lose a fumble. All combines for a 3-leg parlay, plus 327. Good luck, everyone, and gamble responsibly.